Why everyone should hang George Lucas in effigy for selling out to Disney. Cinematic class is about to begin, and the professor is in. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just returned from Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Where do I possibly begin explaining this movie to you? Well, let me throw you out some thoughts that I had, just jotting down in random as I left the theater. The movie is so slow in the beginning. There's a great opening fight scene, and it kind of raises your hopes, and you think, hey, looks like it could be pretty good. And then after that initial opening fight scene, it just drops off the cliff. And for the next 30 minutes or so, I had a hard time keeping these peepers open, and it was an afternoon screening, so that tells you something, right? This thing is just filled up with so much ludicrous. Before I even get in to what's ludicrous about it, let's start with you have three main characters here. You have this Adam Driver's character who is supposed to be the new Darth Vader, if you will. You have the Finn, and you have Poe, and then you have Rey. There is nothing in the chemistry between these characters. It wasn't in The Force Awakens, and it does not carry over into this one, no matter how hard they try. And believe me, Daisy goes through extremes trying to show her angry and then powerful. Boy, they have no chemistry. All four of them together have no chemistry whatsoever. Whereas you had Luke and Leia and Han and whoever else you want to throw in, Chewie or one of the robots, they all had more chemistry in the first trilogy than these. It's not there. Everything they do is totally forced. There's a scene where an entire battle cruiser is cut in half, and everybody on the floor dies except for the two people who are the protagonists. How in the world does that work? I don't know. And once again, we have these great, all-powerful masters of the dark side of the Force, and they're easier to fool than a schoolyard 3-year-old. How does this happen? It happens in all the movies. If they're that powerful, why can't they see when there's a ploy being running? I don't know. Maybe I'm just too street smart for my own good on this. I don't like Adam Driver as a bad guy. He doesn't cut it. And even though he's a little bit better in this one than he was the first, I'm not buying it. He tries to be mean and cruel, and I sit in I laugh. You take this kid out in a half a round, and there's nothing there. So what about the movie all told? Well, you remember back in the old days, if you watched pro wrestling, they would have 2 out of 3 falls. And what would always happen in this, the good guy would win the first fall. And then the bad guy would come and win the second fall, and he would win it in convincing fashion and almost nearly destroy the good guy. And somehow the good guy would come out for the bell in the third round. And yes, he'd find a way to eventually be victorious. Well, this is what George Lucas did with the first trilogy of Star Wars movies, and it seemed to fit rather well. And now this exact same thing is happening this time around. So you kind of have an idea where this thing's going, because they're basically copying again what happened in the first trilogy. And because it's a remake, it's like an old Xerox machine. It's not copying as crisp and clean as the first one. It's a little bit faded. And as such, it just doesn't have the panache. Luke Skywalker, of all people, hero of the first 3, albeit reluctant in the first 2, but hero of the first trilogy, and now he's a blithering idiot. I mean, all of a sudden now he's 170 years old, trying to get as old as Yoda, and he decides to have a stream of consciousness and self-doubt, and he's going through more machinations than Val Kilmer did as Batman. Who should I be, Batman or Bruce Wayne? Oh my God, I can't believe they wrote this stuff into this. And one thing you did, there were rumors all over the internet. There's going to be some big plot twists in this. Wait till you see what happens. Folks, The movie company sent us an email stating, make sure you don't reveal any of the big plots. We don't want anything to get out. And critics said, there aren't any. Oh, you could see in parts. You could see in parts where, ooh, something's going to happen. But nothing happens. They don't take any risks with the script at all. It's like, oh, been there, done that. You know exactly what's going to happen. They they don't go to any type of cutting edge or bleeding edge. It's just the same old, same old. It's like every time Rian Johnson wanted to bring the thing up and maybe do something exciting, like Disney stepped in and went, we need to emulsify this. That crap wouldn't be happening if Lucas hadn't sold his soul to the devil. There you have it. So, how is Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi? Go see it in the movies. You'll have a good time, especially when it gets toward the end. They start all the space battles, and Disney brings out a lot of cute little creatures, especially those little fuzzy things that hang around with Chewbacca. Good stuff. You'll enjoy it. I can tell you this. It's better than The Force Awakens, but it doesn't come anywhere near The Empire Strikes Back. It's a sad thing. I have exclusive behind-the-scene footage, and it's really kind of clever, but in fact, parts of it are more clever than this movie. You can catch it on Outtakes with Fiore Mondays at 7, Thursdays at 9, Saturdays at 2 p.m. on Verizon Fios, Comcast, and Atlantic Broadband. Now that you have learned what you have learned, here endeth your lesson. Live long and prosper.